He'll leave when the... Oh, I am hot. Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby-Dunegan. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the settled minister here. And you called me almost exactly 2 years ago. Happy 2-year anniversary. Back for you as well. Today we are joined by Reverend Dr. Samantha Wilson, who has been leading work with us on transforming our relationship with conflict and deepening our capacity for connection and shared reality. Today we bring the voices and experiences of a group of people who've been on a journey together of vulnerable, powerful learning. If you're new today, wave at me if you're new. Hello, we see you. Thanks for being here. Being new is vulnerable also. We will have a short welcome circle in the corner back here. After our service today, we actually have a congregational conversation, so it'll be a little different after service than normal. We'll have a shorter time to hang out and do coffee. If you're new today, I hope you'll hear an invitation to your own journey, to your own opportunity to grow, support others, and add to a vision of what's possible for each of us and for all of us. If you're online, we're glad you found a way to be with us today. Following worship, as I just said, we'll have this congregational conversation about our budget and our capacity to sustain our shared ministry. Friends, sometimes the conversations we need to have aren't easy. Amen? So today, I hope you'll hear why staying in the conversation can be a life-saving and transformational experience. If you need support at any time, we always have pastoral care folks in person and online. And today, we are glad to have support from Carl Anderson. Carl, wave your hand or stand. Carl in the purple, and Dan Schulte online. And if you're online, you can pass a little message to him or write to pastoralcare@vuu.org. Pastoral care is available throughout the week. Somebody answers that email. We take turns. Those are the two people who are on for this week. In addition, we have a Caring Neighbors team that works to foster a loving and caring community in which all of us can get nurture and support and assist each other through life's joys and trials with things like meals, social gatherings, and occasional rides. And they can be reached at caringneighbors@vuu.org. I think you're getting a sense of how we do our emails, right? I'm minister@vuu.org. Today, if you need a break, feel free to step into our flex room over here where you can still watch the service but take care of needs of a baby. There's a changing table in there. Or whatever needs your attention. We're so glad that you chose to be with us today. Let's take just a brief moment to wave to our friends online. They'll get a little camera view of us. Hello, everyone. We're so glad you could be with us. I'm going to invite Reverend Sam to light our chalice now with us as we say the chalice lighting words together. Give her a chance to get to the flame. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice. These words come to us from Rosemary Watola Trummer. Inside it all. Beneath the masks, beneath the names, beneath ideals, beneath the shoulds, is a thrumming, ecstatic, atomic swirl. Unseen and omnipresent, inescapable and holy, a divine blurring of being, a realm of charge and energy. Most of it empty space. Sometimes I remember this. Perhaps walking in the woods or standing in the midst of a city's whir, perhaps working in the kitchen or singing in a choir. I remember who we really are. Remember not with my mind, but with being, and I am lost in it, found in it, alive in the cloud of it, astonished with the sacred design of it, elegant soup of it, elemental swirl of it all. How is it I sometimes see only woman, man, cottonwood, spider, self, other, 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 other. We walk this journey of separation together. Oh, being who is lonely, remember? And I invite you to join us in our opening song that the 1 Hour Choir will be leading with Katie.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Katie Seiferth. I'm the Director of Music Ministries. My pronouns are she, her, and we have a lot of musicians and singers to lead music with us this morning, yes. The 1 Hour Choir is really a flexible choir. Anyone can come. We learn music. Technically, it was a 30-minute choir today, where we play with harmonies. It's more by rote, really, than actual sheet music. And then you'll hear the VU Voices Choir with music that Linda Horton commissioned for us to sing later today, where we really do dive into the sheet music and those complicated harmonies. And then we have an ensemble, too, that just loves to get up here and sing on the mics to help us all lead together. So you're all part of that. Your voices matter, too. And this song I wrote, really, to remind us that in order to hear every voice in the room, every voice has to speak in the room as well. So it's a song to call us into that, remind us of that. We're going to teach it to you. And there's really 3 parts that build and all come together. So the first part goes like this. It's like this. Be seen, speak, let my body take space. Be seen, speak, let my body take space. Join with us, great. Be seen, speak, let my body take space. Be seen, speak, let my body take space. Next part. Right now, right now, the time is now, the time is now, right now, right now, the time is now, the time is now, right now, right now, the time is now, the time is now, right now, right now, the time is now, the time is now. Next part. So if you can't figure it out, that first part was like an alto range, the second part's like a tenor bass range, and these are my higher voices. It goes like this. There's value in me, there's value in you, we have worth and a voice. There's value in me, there's value in you, we have worth and a voice. There's value in me, there's value in you, we have worth and a voice. There's value in me,
Good morning. My name is Kelsey McIntyre. I use the pronouns she, her, and I am the Faith Formation Assistant. I'd like to invite all of the kids to join me up front for our time for all ages. And if any of you have a contribution for our children's chalice, that is up front right here. This last Wednesday was a holiday for some pagans out there. It is the holiday of Beltane. And being a pagan myself, I wanted to write a little story about the holiday to share with you guys. In the city where Emily lived, the Beltane festival was a cherished tradition. Each year, pagans all around the world would gather on Kelton Hill to celebrate the changing of spring to summer. Emily and her family had gone to the celebration every year since they'd moved to Edinburgh. Last year, she'd been a part of the ritual as one of the May Queen's attendants, but she'd always wanted to play the part of the May Queen. She'd studied the story all year in hopes that now that she was old enough, she'd be chosen for the part. As she lined up with other hopeful young women auditioning for the part, she went over the story once more. The May Queen, the maiden form of the goddess, has just become a woman and is looking for a partner. When she first meets the god, he is in his horned god form. He is arrogant and bitter from the previous winter. As he casts off the form of the horned god and dies, the May Queen helps him live once more, and he becomes the green man, full of life and respect. Together, they light the fire of Beltane, symbolizing leaving winter behind and moving towards the warmth of summer. During the audition, Emily tried her best to show the story in each movement of her body. At the end of the day, she was exhausted, but she knew she'd given her all. Back at home, as she waited for the judge's decision, she worked on an elaborate crown of flowers and ribbons to go with her costume. When she got the message that she was chosen to be the May Queen, she couldn't believe it. She was so excited, but terribly nervous. She'd have to perform in front of thousands of people. What if she made a mistake? In the days leading up to the festival, Emily practiced the steps of the ceremony with diligence, her movements growing more graceful each day. She memorized the ritual, excited to participate in the magic of Beltane. The night of the festival, Emily dressed in her white gown and placed her magnificent crown upon her head. As she stepped onto the stage, she felt the eyes of a city upon her, as well as those who had traveled here. The drums and chants swirled around her as she led the other actors in the ceremony. But just as she was about to gather breath of the crowd to bring the green man back to life, disaster struck. A gust of wind snatched the crown from her head. She tried to look for it, but it was lost in the crowd. Without her crown, she wasn't the May Queen. She was just Emily. Everyone was waiting for her, but she was so upset she couldn't remember what came next. Then from the edge of a crowd, a girl called, "Here!" She was pulling flowers from her friends' crowns and weaving them into her own small crown to make a bigger crown fit for a queen. When she was finished, she held it out for Emily. Emily smiled at the girl and thanked her. As she placed the crown upon her head, warmth rushed over her. The feeling filled her up as she led the resurrection of the green man, and the crowd roared with applause. As the ritual ended and she joined the crowd dancing and celebrating the night, she realized that even though she'd played the part of the May Queen, whose job it was to vanquish the darkness and invite in the light, it was the girl who had given her the crown who had truly embodied the spirit of the May Queen. She had led Emily out of the darkness of her embarrassment and into the light so she could finish her play. Thank you so much. If the parents would please rise and form the bridge of love, we'll sing the children out.
We're going to send you out to Igor Glenn. Kids, do you think he looks like anybody? Santa, do you know that he is a helper of Santa during Christmas? And he wrote this song to remind us that your voices are important too. Okay, so we're gonna sing you out.
When the storm is through over me and you, sunshine clears the air. No more thundering, hear the children sing, music's everywhere. Listen to a sound closer to the ground. Listen to the children sing, when the noisy roar is no more. Listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing. But there's too much sound going round and round, makes it hard to think. When there's too much crowd being way too loud, anchors on the brink. We can make a choice for a smaller voice. Listen to the children sing, when the noisy roar is no more. Listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing. Our generals prove every time we lose, nothing did we gain. Even when we win, there are those we sin, suffer hidden pain. Put away the guns, muffle down the drums, listen to the children sing, when the noisy roar is no more. Listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing, listen to the children sing. Listen to the children, listen to the children, listen to the children sing. Listen to the children sing.
For those of you who are used to us doing our centering rituals now, they're going to happen later. So just wait for my cue. 2 years ago, as I said in the introduction, you called me to be your settled minister. Everyone was transitioning from the COVID shutdown, and we were headed into a year of unknowns. And by we, I mean all the congregations everywhere, but also you. As we began our work, I was immediately engulfed in some areas of conflict in this congregation, which were entangled in your history with the UUA and your history with previous staff members and ministers. And as we worked to re-engage members and institutional functioning, pathways to membership, committee work, and community commitments and partnerships, I kept feeling the depth of disconnection and desire for new ways of being together. Some of us sounded like her. In January of my first year, as I created a committee on shared ministry to work with me, I asked 4 people to help me think about how we could address all of those needs. And later, when I met with Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, a UU minister in Tucson, I learned about the work of Reverend Samantha Wilson. Now, Roz was charged with contacting Reverend Sam and finding out about her approach to conflict work and transforming community. And over the next few months, we began a dialogue with other leaders at Valley Unitarian Universalist and eventually had an agreement to do this work together. This work is complex and layered. Our capacity to manage conflict in an organization is directly related and connected to our ability to manage it in ourselves. To manage and understand ourselves, our emotions, our history, our stories. So we began with a group of people willing to learn and grow, many of whom were honestly skeptical and uncomfortable with the work they were invited to do. Yeah, that's right, folks, right? You were skeptical and uncomfortable. Raise your hand if that is the case. Amen, amen, amen. And we are about to hear from folks who did this work over the last 9-ish months, who did this vulnerable, life-changing, challenging work. And I did this work too. It asked me, as I knew it would, to see myself and my role differently, to make room for the stories of other people, to listen, and to consider your history and your future in new ways. Reverend Sam spent a lot of time with many of you and with me as we unwound the knotted ball of yarn that held the stories and history and needs of this congregation. I had to show up differently than a settled minister is usually asked to do. We were doing interim work, in fact, that this congregation had never really done before. But y'all, we're not alone. The challenges we are facing are the challenges of being a congregation in a post-COVID world where we are all stumbling into grief and to different ideas about what it means to be here and to be a community. Tending our relationships and skills has been a foundation for a potential return to the work of tending our institution, the container that holds our ministries and our work together. In this culture, and I mean like American culture or Western culture, we are taught that we need to have things, buildings, for example, in order to do things like shared work, and that will lead us to be a certain kind of people, right? Have, do, be. But in truth, who we are being and living our most authentic and whole selves is the foundation for what we can do together and then what we can create or have together. Be, do, have. The brave folks who engaged in this work have done foundational work that impacts all of us. And I'm going to invite them right now, if they're willing and able, to stand and just be recognized. So if you were in the Spirituality of Conflict group, would you be willing to stand and just look around? If someone invited you to be in a class that was going to run for 9 months called the Spirituality of Conflict, how many of you would be like, hell no? Bye-bye. But we did it. And today you'll hear from several of them, and we'll carry their words with song and music in between, holding their stories like a litany. Our invitation to you is to hear their stories in ways that might move you too, even if this is your first time here. Let yourself be moved. And now we're going to hear from them, and I'm just going to give a quick little cue because there's multiple people coming up. We're going to watch a video from Barbara Face, and Terry and Melissa, if you would go ahead and come up to the stage as we pull that video up from Barbara Face.
I hereby make a confession. I can be a mean-spirited, snarky, gossipy kind of gal, though I suppose that's not much of a surprise to those of you who know me and have seen me belly up to spewing out unkindness about others. I'm not proud of this claim. In fact, I'm ashamed to say it out loud. I have come to understand how and why I developed the habit and how it impacts my own well-being. And while I was able to make different choices in other areas, I continued to hold on to the power of the mean-spirited, snarky gossip because it felt so good. I was getting a dopamine high from it. The conflict resolution work has helped set me free. I want to interact with you in a clean way. I want to bask in your love and approval, not for the snarkiness, but for the love. I now have tools to help make that happen. We live encased in these bodies, these shells, and though we have language, it is also a shell. We can never really know what's happening in another's encasement. Through listening to each other's stories, we can begin to see the fragile beings we are. We can begin to be curious. We can begin to be open to goodness. Disagreement can be a journey and an even deeper getting to know each other. I'll meet you there.
Hi everyone, my name is Teri, and this is a poem that I received through this work. It is called Our Love Expands to Receive Us. After 6,000 years of domination systems, where does that leave me but squarely within them, and them within me, layer upon layer of embodied separation, all piled on and tangled in one huge seething knot. Our whole human family is jangled. Maybe it all began with an innocent mistake. A woman, an apple, a demonic snake. Maybe that myth really does tell what we need to relate. In blame stories, I perceive we all have a stake. Something happened to fragment our sense of connection. Something happened to limit our range of expression in all that's been lost, these millennia of disconnection. In blame stories, I hold a clue to give me direction. Something was hurt. Something was broken. Something sacred went missing. Repair couldn't be spoken. Until born into fragments, we are already too much to be heard, too much to be felt, no space to be held. The words to describe us, nobody can tell. When so many unmet needs all at once meet this collapse, in our collective blame stories combust. They took root in my psyche, became sense of self, a why to hold on to as I cast stones in hell. The blame path is seductive. Every step of the way, the real reason I'm upset can be told every day. I've learned what I created from this space of collapse can be held in a way that lets me come back through the layers of separation to a new way to know how to be one together, a new story to tell. In this house that is holy, when we look at each other and we see ourselves, our love expands to receive us, an end in itself.
Well, that was a hard act to follow. Thank you, Teri. My printer did not work this morning, so it would not do this. So I brought my computer, and my lovely husband tried and tried to get the printer to work, and nevertheless, we were not able, so bear with me for a second. So I'd like to ask two things of you before I start. Not difficult requests. I'd like you to breathe deeply with me before and after. Can you all do that? You can all do that. And I would really appreciate it that you refrain from clapping at the end, because what I find is that the noise takes me out of my feelings and puts me more in my head and my ego. And that's not where I want to be. Certainly not right now. I do too much of that anyway. So let's breathe together. Many years ago, I had an amazing mentor. Can you all hear me? Okay. I had an amazing mentor, Jean Smith, the mother of a serious boyfriend that I had in 1985. That gives you a chance to know how old I am. And while my relationship with him did not survive, she remained a mentor and a friend of mine until her death in 2015. She was a psychiatrist by trade. Lucky me. I highly recommend having a personal psychiatrist at your beck and call in your life. Saved me more times than I can count. She taught me the most important lesson I have ever learned, and am still recognizing the importance of today. She told me, whenever you have a strong reaction to something, it is your job to go deep inside yourself and find out what that reaction is based on. What that reaction is trying to tell you about yourself, she told me. Because it really is all about me, you know, and how I react to things. What I found was that when I did that in earnest, all the externals would fall away. I mean, all of them. It was miraculous. Every last one. She was so smart. It didn't matter the situation. It was all just story. What I needed to realize was that what remained were my feelings. Fear. And underneath that fear, a sadness, wide and deep, a profound sadness, and anxiety, and loss, and grief. I believe I have been in a state of grief and shock for some time now, maybe even have PTSD. Certainly working in healthcare during a pandemic was traumatic. And I believe we as a congregation have been through trauma as well, with the loss of longtime staff, new staff, other changes, and then, a worldwide pandemic. It hasn't happened for 100 years? Yeah. So there was that. And I was like, really? How much can I take? How much can we take? As I learned in co-facilitating a grief support group with Dan Schulte for a couple of months earlier this year, we as a culture don't do death. Now, I knew that because I've been working in hospice for a long time. So I see it every day. We don't do death, but we also don't do grief. Because no one really knows how. I don't know how. I've never been taught. We don't get taught anywhere about grief until we are staring it in the face. And then, what do we have? We're just left to our own devices. And it can get ugly. Participating in the large and small groups with Reverend Sam has brought back to me Jean's words of wisdom. I found the sharing and the vulnerability of the participants awe-inspiring. I valued getting to know individuals better in a safe place. It provided me an opportunity to listen and learn. I came away humbled by the experience. I realized that even though I have been at VUU for 30 years, half my lifetime, that there is much about people I do not know, could not know, without a deep dive into the work. In Reverend Sam's group, I have recognized that I have been judgmental of others. I have been holding some people in judgment, feeling like their concerns are not that legitimate, that they aren't as invested as I am in VUU. I realize, though, that holding another in judgment is not helpful. When I judge others, I am not considering their feelings or operating with empathy. When I judge others, I cannot extend empathy to them or to myself. Then my grief and sadness takes over and it's off to the races. I have a bumper sticker on my car. Actually, I have a bunch of them, but one has just 3 words on it. Respond with love. I want to be more like that. If that is true, really true, then I need to hold everyone in the light, as my Quaker brother would say. I need to be open and vulnerable and stay in the room when things get messy, and they will get messy. I need to stay engaged. I need to recognize that some of the folks I have been judging are hurting just as I am. They are passionate just as I am. They are fierce advocates just as I am. We have much in common. And who am I to judge? I want to operate from a place of everyone is doing about the best they can, and I want to assume best intentions. And I want to work together with all of you to make VUU the most it can be for years to come. How good can it become? It depends on each of us together. Please breathe with me. Blessed be.
Got to turn it on. I didn't know we were going to sing that song before I started. I sang that to my dad as he was dying. Good morning. When I was invited to reflect on my spirituality of conflict experience, I began by procrastinating. I lost the email prompt. I emailed Reverend Sarah and asked her to send it again. I was too busy, even though I found time to read several chapters in the latest book group selection. I opened my notes from large and small group meetings and went outside to admire my garden. I scrolled through Facebook. I visited with my cat. I ate another donut and drank more coffee. Finally, I heard in my head, Reverend Sam. She said, take a breath. Use your senses to orient yourself. Notice how your body feels and what your level of stress is. And I surprised myself by realizing my stress level really wasn't that high. That, to use a metaphor from Reverend Sam, my bus was full of just the right number of passengers, and that I cared deeply for them all, for all of you, even those of you with whom I fundamentally disagree on one or more of the issues we're grappling with at VUU. What have I gained by doing this work? I've met people I want to get to know better. I've deepened friendships with people who I previously knew only superficially. I've shared things about myself that I'd not let out before. That being in a big group for any length of time leaves me exhausted and craving solitude. That when I volunteer to do too much, I can become resentful. that I sometimes feel intimidated by those of you with more academic or professional credentials than I have. What do I hope comes out of this work? As I've talked about it with some of my fellow old-timers at VUU, I've mentioned someone a lot the rest of you who aren't old-timers didn't know. Her name was Mary Lou Coy. She wasn't one of the founding members of VUU, but she came soon after that. She lived through numerous VUU conflicts and struggles, but she stayed, and she continued to contribute her time, her money, and her love. She was the ultimate welcomer of visitors and new members. I intend to keep her spirit alive on my bus, and I want all of you in there with us. Thank you.
Hi. I know I'm going to be more teacherly. I've learned that about myself. Can't get out of it. I just want to say that mine was a bumpy beginning with Reverend Sam. I looked for rules to master and found all her options and alternatives just a wee bit crazy making. So when I wrote a letter to someone in my childhood who harmed me, Reverend Sam's instructions nudged me past the stories I tell myself to a new perspective and to recognize how I had harmed someone else. I'm beginning to understand that now I'm noticing my emotions right now. I didn't plan that, but what the words say here is, I'm beginning to understand that not noticing my feelings has negative consequences for my relationships. If I take away any rule, I like rules, if I take away any rule from Reverend Sam's program, it is her quote from Anderson Hooker, which says, "The people are not the problem." You should say this all together with me if you knew it. The problem is the problem. Reflecting back, I realize how this understanding was important in my teaching, which was kind of the only thing that was important to me for 52 years, so it's kind of a big deal. In 1967, I was a beginning high school art teacher. I had a student nicknamed Screw. He even signed his papers with a little drawing of a screw. And he was always acting up. I tried to ignore him. I didn't look at him. Till I understood, not in those words, but I understood that he was not the problem. The problem was his need for attention, and he would do anything to get it, including acting up. His focus shifted to learning and making good decisions in art when my behavior changed. By 2019, my oxygen problem meant I could no longer stand through a 2-hour class. So seated on a stool, I couldn't step back and forth to make eye contact with everyone. I didn't see students who might be moving out of my line of sight because of an unidentified problem. That's when I knew it was time to retire. I'm beginning to better focus on problems rather than people in my outside my teaching now, including here at VUU. Thank you, Reverend Sam.
I have here Beverly. Come on over this way.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful to be seen. And I can tell you that was not always the case here. We have evolved, and that is wonderful. And we currently have an opportunity to evolve to an even greater level. In the beginning, for the most part, Valley Unitarian Universalists called itself a church. It was started by a group of people in a pizza parlor. The ones who said, this formal religion stuff is not for me. They evolved the structure that we lived in when it was appropriate, and when we needed more, we got more because we came together to make the decisions. Of course, progress was slow. It was said that getting a bunch of UUs to agree to something was like, anybody remember? Herding cats. Exactly. But then it took many years for people to realize that somehow or another calling ourselves a church did not invite a whole bunch of people who were not okay with that kind of statement to consider calling ourselves something else. And that's when we became Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, which opened the door for so many people who thought, oh, seems like a good idea over there, but could not get past the church part. And having you here, having us all here together, has been an incredible experience of growth and understanding. The spirituality conflict training which I attended was an expression of a need to have us all be together, to learn something new and different, how to look at each other, look at the problems we were having, and figure out a way to handle them. Know that where we come from means that we have certain ideas about how things should work. And perhaps in a particular instance, we need to think bigger and deeper. And that is what we're up to now. And that is what this training has brought me to understand. And I hope to be able to communicate it to you so that you also understand. In the meantime, I'm losing my place on my page. Why am I having this conversation with you? Now we get to the other part. It's because we are trying to solve an issue using our old standards. If you don't solve this problem my way, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Anybody remember saying that? This is not the time to do that, because we are an unusual group of people who look at the world as a place where we can make a difference, where we stand for the kinds of things that will preserve our civilization, will enhance our thinking, and make it comfortable for me 23 years ago to come into this place with the only black face showing and to find a way for all of us, for me to be here and for you to accept me. And I know that for some people that was very difficult. But once again, it's on the side of evolution, which is what we are all about and what is the purpose of our training. Are we willing to leave this place? Because there's some people who have decided they don't like the way things are going right now. So they took their ball and went home. And I'm really concerned about that. Because I think to myself, really? Are you really willing to leave a place where you can have an honest, deep conversation with somebody and not be called names or thought to be stupid and crazy or whatever? where you have an opportunity to really be with people and assist in a way that makes everybody stronger and makes the world a better place. I mean, who wants to leave that kind of place? But here we are, going back to our old way of handling things and thinking about things. But what I offer you is an opportunity, as Reverend Sam did, to move away from that place, to consider that perhaps my misunderstanding with somebody has more to do with how they live their life and the way things were for them than it has to do about their dislike of me. And of course, you know, that kind of conversation is easy with me because I don't look like anybody in this room. And I am a stranger to many of you. My people are a stranger. But here, in this place, in this sanctuary, in this beautiful sanctuary that we have created from a pizza parlor, remember that, folks, is wonderful. It shows that we can do this. It demonstrates that we can have a set of principles and ways of understanding each other that creates the kind of world we want to see happen. And so, I invite you to consider rethinking your decision. Consider the possibility that there are many ways of handling things and making decisions, and perhaps if we all hold hands as we cross the street and think about things together, we can remain this congregation that feeds the poor, teaches children, and hugs each other when we see each other on Sunday. Thank you.
I don't even know how to add to that. Thank you. When this program on spirituality of conflict began, I was mad. I mean, I was so angry. And I was really sad, too. I had come back after COVID, and literally everything in this place was different. And I'm not going to say I liked all of it. The minister was different. The staff was different. The congregation was different. Oh, my God, the building was different. And the UUA was certainly different. And I wasn't having any part of it. And the worst part of that is that I was pretty sure that everybody in charge didn't think anything was missing. And that really hurt. I was also really annoyed, excuse me, Reverend Sam, that these workshops weren't going to deal with our conflict head on. You know, damn it, I wanted somebody to listen to me. And I wanted them to listen to the people that I love. And I wanted them to hear our pain and hear what we wanted. And I just wanted to scream at somebody. And that wasn't what we were doing. And I was like, oh my God, how do we get to the other side of this if we're not even going to talk about the problem? Or what Debbie Simpkins thought the problem was. I mean, let's face it, this was my problem. And gradually, as we started sharing and started getting to know each other in our small group, I realized that we were doing some really hard work to get the skills and build the bridges between each other that would help us talk about these conflicts together or these problems that we had together. I will speak for me. I was starting to remember that VUU belongs to all of us. Every single person in this room, whether you've been here for 30 years, 40 years, or 5 minutes, this is our shared space. We all have struggles. At every given point, at any given point, I truly believe that we are all doing our very, very best. And there needs to be a safe space here for all of us, even the people that don't you my way. I think I know. I don't think I know. So, to be specific, when I saw in the church newsletter and the happenings that our Easter service was going to celebrate National Transgender Day, I thought, oh, give me a break. After 44 years as a UU, now I don't even get Easter, because I have always identified that my root theology was Christianity, and I've always thought that we could at least throw the Christians a bone on Christmas and Easter. And, you know, here's coming Easter, and oh no, we have now decided that there is something else that is so much more important than celebrating the rebirth of life and the spring and the joy and whatever. And the first thing I did, and I'm not proud of this, is go right to the group of friends I knew who would agree with me. And we had a conversation about how stinky it was that we didn't like what the topic said it was in the newsletter, and who was going to go somewhere else on Easter and who wasn't going to go along with this. And I was feeling just fine with that. And then my new superhero, Reverend Sarah, said, okay, now wait a minute. Y'all did not ask me what that sermon is going to be about. You just read in the newsletter and you decided you knew, and I'm coming to choir, and I'm going to be here for you to ask me questions. And Rick and I stayed because I was brave to stay, because I'd been spending 9 months having brave conversations and being vulnerable, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give this woman a chance, but I'm not happy with her. And we stayed, and we talked, and oh my God, I found out I was so wrong. I found out I had read that so incorrectly, and her intention was not at all to ignore Easter and spring and all the happy bunnies and baskets I needed. Her intention was, draw the circle wider. Debbie, for God's sake, for 44 years you have been listening to this theology, and you forgot that we are always better when we draw that circle wider. So I said, and I'll say it in front of every person in this room, Reverend Sarah, I am deeply sorry for my inability to open the door and let you into my circle and our circle. I was blind, and now I see. So, yeah, it's been a rough year, and you know what? A bunch of us have hurt a lot of people and been hurt by a lot of people, and everyone's been hurting, and I am standing here taking responsibility for the hurting I did, and I'm sorry, and we need to get over this. We need to get over this now, and I would also like to say that something I learned yesterday at our group meeting was how awful things have been for some of the people besides Reverend Sarah that I admire most in this congregation, and that is our Committee on Shared Ministry. And while we have fought with each other and threatened each other and taken our marbles home and played on our own courts rather than being in blessed community with each other, these people have stayed in the fight and tried to make a space for all of us to be heard, and I thank you for that service from the bottom of my heart. So, yesterday, we were invited to bring something to put on the altar at the service, and I bought part of my kid's train set, part of my son's train set. This is a 40-year-old piece of equipment here that amazingly, or just fortuitously enough, Rick and I decided to fix for our granddaughter a few weeks ago. And in case, you can probably see it if you look at the screen, but it's a drawbridge. It's a drawbridge. And when this whole conflict resolution started, my bridge was up. You people over here who thought this weren't getting on the bridge, and a bunch of people who were sailing underneath into the sunset, oh well, good luck. And I was just really convinced that my way was right. And it's taken 9 months for me to admit that I was wrong. I'm not saying I don't still think what I think, but I'm saying that I was wrong in my thinking that it had to be my way, because it doesn't. And my bridge is here. I invite with all my heart everyone who's been hurting and been feeling pain and been upset. Please, please, for the love of this sacred, sacred community, lower your bridge. Get with the rest. Get with everybody and find a way forward. Things aren't going to be the way they were. They're not going to be the way they are now. They're not going to completely be the way I want them to, which is really hard for the oldest child. But if we all work together, they are going to be so much better. And I want to tell you all, stay for this congregational meeting. We have challenges. Some of you know about them already, and some of you don't. We have challenges. It's time to stop arguing, start listening. Get your hearts open. Roll up your sleeves. Take out your expletive checkbooks and get busy building the new you, because it's going to be better than ever.
In this song. If it's new for you, just invite you to catch on with it when you learn it. But the words are really potent for us right now.
Our kids are going to be joining us too, so make room for the young folks to come join us as we finish up. If you have a seat open next to you, raise your hand so they can find a place. Kids, if you want to sit down, go for it. Chair, floor, wherever you can be.
Just for a little while, I know there's a world worth fighting for. Will you sit with me? Will you sit with me? Will you sit with me? Just for a little while, I know there's a world worth fighting for. Comrade, take my hand. Comrade, take my hand. Comrade, take my hand. Just for a little while, I know there's a world worth fighting for. One more time. Will you sit with me? But this time we're going to sing, I know there's a VU worth fighting for. Will you sit with me? Will you sit with me? Just for a little while, I know there's a VU worth fighting for.
Since we're running a little late, we're going to let Reverend Sam take us into the finishing space. She has a few words to leave us with, and I thought that it would be great to have them with our kids in the space, so we're going to skip that offering slide and come back to it at the very end.
I want to offer you some words that I gave you September 24th, 2023, and I'd like to argue that that's not slacking, that's poignant and timeless. This is what I said to you in September. I want you to imagine that VUU is a being who just turned 60 years old. We do not know if this being is an adolescent, because if it lives to 300 years old, it has a long way to go. Or it might be eldering right now, if it only lives a little while longer. But we know at 60, by human definitions, it's a baby elder, and that's not insignificant. And this 60-year-old being, who I think of as a grandmother, has 300 internal voices right now. And those internal voices have each of their own stories, own inner children, own traumas, own longings for a safe place to call home. And in the last decade of the life of this elder, there was a series of events, one right after another, that has stretched and challenged them. And this elder has to decide what they're going to do. They have to decide where they want to put their attention, because they ain't dead yet. And we won't confuse eldering with ending. Eldering is wisening. And an elder in a room grounds the group to the really, 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 because they've lived through enough urgencies already to know which ones are true and which ones are false. And what I know from my own grandmother was that grandmothers do not take kindly to directions, urgency, and demands. And the rule at Grandma's house is you don't make the rule at Grandma's house. And here we are at Grandma VUU's house all together. So what does she need from us? Here's what my grandma would want. Go to the kitchen and make a strong cup of coffee. Thank you, Doug. Extra cream, extra sugar, that's going to be needed. And bring all the cups you can fit on one serving platter. Yes, even the nice ones. And drag all the chairs from inside the house to the outside of the house. Get on the porch, bring the blankets and pillows, and get my slippers. And come out on the porch here. Listen, 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 child. I got stories you haven't heard. Oh, more people are coming. We will all get here when we get here. That's right. And that one's always late. Let them in. There's always room at Grandma's house. And don't spend time fighting in the kitchen. I can hear you. And you don't know how to make my sweet potato pie. I know how to make it. It's right here. So just come sit here and rock with me through the uncomfortable silences where you think you have something better to do, because these sorts of things take time. And wait till the stars come out and pull out the leftovers from the kitchen and turn up the oven, the casserole bubbling, and serve each other food on every plate. And pour tea and whiskey and weep. Weep for what we never had time to grieve. And weep for what we never had a chance to yell about. And weep for what we never apologized for. She might look over at us, this pile on the porch, rocking and sleeping and talking and licking the pie plate and staring at the moon. And one of us, probably Nick, is going to start to clean the dishes. And she's going to say, no, Nick, do not clean the dishes. Shoo yourself away. There's real work to be done. Real work. She'll say, do it in the morning. All you're running around. You don't need to fix anything or prove anything right now. I know you're scared. You're about to lose it all. But you belong here, and you're my family. And feel that squeeze of her hand. Feel it. I see some of you squeezing each other's hands. And feel your body return to itself here in the place of your belonging. And look around at all these faces on the porch with you, sleepy and weepy, red-eyed, blurry-eyed, confused and hungry. And the children are waking up early, and they're coming into your porch on the morning light, asking for pancakes and chocolate milk. And you're going to give it to them. Here on this porch of this house, on this earth, transforming and changing. But you are home nonetheless. Blessed be.
We're going to let the choir actually sing now. We're making adjustments as we go, building the plane as we go. As the choir is singing this song, if we want to pass the plate, we can do that. And then we're going to move into the end of our service and extinguish our chalice. So let's hear these last pieces of wisdom from our elders and from the choir.
There we go. Sound of hope, a sound of peace, a sound that celebrates and speaks what we believe, a sound of love, a sound so strong, it's amazing what is given when we share a song. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice. sing, why we lift our voice, why we stand in harmony. This is why we sing, why we lift our voice. Take my hand and sing with me. This is why we sing.
Won't you join me in extinguishing our chalice as we say these words together once we have the slide. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Friends, thank you for staying for a longer service, hearing all of those beautiful voices and stories. Please stay for our congregational conversation. We're gonna feed you. There is childcare, and we look forward to all of us being in deeper conversation about what it means to be a community and to sustain a community. Go in peace, stay for coffee and love and more conversation.